seen in devotees who've attended, becoming more inspired to distribute books, in actual distribution of books, those who are committed to book distribution to make their resolve stronger. And we get inspiration by association with those who are inspired. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. According to our association, our desires develop. Sangye shakti kalo yoga. In Kali Yoga, we get strength from association. We're most blessed to have the association of devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord all over the world, especially in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. And we can look forward to maybe 50 years from now, and all of you are sitting there will be sitting here, and there'll be few young devotees asking, how do we distribute books when everyone's already got at least 3 sets in their hand? Okay, take it away. When will that day come? Every home in America, you were quoting this morning. So, questions? We can have water for everyone, isn't it? Oh, Evan. You do have enough water for everyone.
This question is from Mokul it's from your class. Can you hear me? This question for you, this is from your class that you gave earlier today. You were speaking about having that sattvic faith. So in which category there's a faith for, distributing these books? So we always want to expand these book distribution more and more and more. So what category of faith does that come under? And, because it may seem like passion. Many people just accuse book distributors of being, you guys are just in the mode of passion, that's why you're doing this. The only reason you're expanding your book is because you're just passionate. It's actually not sattvic. So what's the, what's the proper way of
Hare Krishna. It looks like devotional service is the mode of passion, but Rupa Goswami says that if our only business is to engage our minds and our bodies and our words in pure devotion to Krishna, then we have to be considered to be liberated souls even while living. Because devotional service can resemble the mode of goodness, it can resemble the mode of passion, it can even resemble the mode of ignorance, but it's actually a guna. So that faith which inspires devotees to persevere, as all these devotees have, decade after decade, in following Srila Prabhupada's instructions and distributing his books and training up a new generation to do the same thing, that has to be considered to be Shuddha Sattva Guna, completely transcendental, nirguna.
Arjuna.
Add something to that?
Yeah, Arjuna wanted to be sattvic, right? Krishna told him, you fool, you rascal, fight.
I would venture to say even a little further is because that instruction is coming from Prabhupada.
That's right.
So his instructions are not ignorance, passion, or goodness. They're transcendental. And if you carry out that instruction, how can it all of a sudden turn into passion? It started off transcendental, it stays transcendental. It doesn't look like passion. It may look like ignorance or those things, but it's from Prabhupada, so it's always transcendental. And the fact is, when you do it, you become purified as a result because it is transcendental. So you can't contaminate even though you may be contaminated. I'm sorry, I may be contaminated. You know, but it purifies us. That's like the fire. You put anything in that fire, it consumes it. So if you stay in that fire, then you become transcendental. If you step out of it, then you're not transcendental. Not your passion, ignorance, and all those things. You go right back to what you were before. So that's mine.
So like anything else, let's say you're cooking and out of ignorance, you don't put in sugar, you put in salt and a daily sweet. You cannot then say, well, I was ordered by my guru to be a cook, therefore my activity is transcendental. So we take personal responsibility for everything we do, and we still can, even though the activity itself, when done purely, is totally transcendental, by our own problems, we could cause problems. So not that we say, I did something and the result was bad, and therefore, well, it's okay, it's transcendental. Like we used to, in Chicago, all the time, devotees would get into fights. And Chicago. It was a rough neighborhood. And we used, in places like in Dallas, which was a heavy Bible Belt area, if you just went on Harinam Sankirtan, with shaved heads, they would throw bottles at you, they would spit at you. Okay. So anyways, the point is, when you're doing book distribution, the activity itself is transcendental, but you still have to be careful what you're doing. See, you're trying to do it in pure goodness. You're not just going to do any old thing and act negligently or stupid. You have to do everything correctly, just like a cook has to make sure to follow recipes.
I'll give you two examples. One, and you can all correct me if I'm off, is that a lady wrote to Srila Prabhupada complaining about the Sankirtan devotees. Not a devotee, but a Karmi lady. And Prabhupada apologized. My students are a little overzealous. And he apologized. He acknowledged her concern, and then he tried to explain that they're young and they're fired up, they're enthusiastic. The other one is actually more appropriate to hear in Atlanta, because I was there when the Air Force first started. Of course, my mentor, Moga Lila, was there before me. But when we started doing the Atlanta airport, it was something new, headed by Chaudhary, and the enthusiasm was spilling out all over the airport, because we had free reign. We could just run anywhere we wanted to, all over the airport. We just go through. So what happened was, devotees were, again, overzealous. Not Chaudhary. Chaudhary was special. I mean, of course, we still miss him, but he was special. But a lot of us were just running here and there, running. And then Mr. Stogner, who was the chief of the airport, he knew me quite well. And he would come to me and say, Tillman, can't you talk to your people? And I would talk to the devotees. But then we lost the airport. And from what I remember, Srila Prabhupada said, you lost the airport because you failed to respect the businessmen. You agitated the businessmen. Because they would go and complain to the authorities. So we just thought, hey, we're just distributing books. It's for Srila Prabhupada. Of course it's for Srila Prabhupada. But as Prabhu was saying, you have to use our intelligence, whoever we're talking to. Because my training in Sankirtan was go preach. I said, Balamant, I want to be trained by Triparari. He said, no, go and preach. And I would just remember this one class that Rameshwar gave. And he said, going on Sankirtan is like giving little small Bhagavatam classes all day. So that's always been my mindset, just whoever I'm talking to, where are you from, what do you do, and then explaining a little bit of Krishna consciousness to them, but being respectful to the people that we deal with. To me, that solves the problem. Just take time and be respectful to the person.
You remember that letter that was sent? Because there was a certain point in time when the book distribution was really, it was a numbers game more or less, because from what I remember, at least my mood was, we wanted Prabhupada to visit our temple. You had to distribute more books than the other temple. Oh, he's not coming, and you can't go there and see him. So, I mean, for me personally, I said, that's it. Whatever I got to do. want to see Prabhupada, they're going to take a book. But that there was a letter where that was to be discussed, seemed like from that first generation who were just, chant Hare Krishna, be happy and sell, poorer than probably no more than Prabhu. And there's a point where, like, when I joined, it was just like flow on, just got to get them out there, get the numbers done. And the letter said, he said, they are distributing these books under my order. Remember that one? So, but if you could do it better, then you show them.
Right.
But I don't want the numbers to drop or something like that. And at the same time, though, he would tell devotees, don't be. So, you have to use your intelligence. It's not like Krishna consciousness. But then again, too, if you make a mistake, it's such a wonderful process. If you're sincere, maybe you get some reaction, but you're not going to fall away. As long as you stay sincere. Sincerity is the most important part. So like a child sometimes, they draw a little picture of, Mommy, this is you. Right? And you look at it, you're holding it upside down. You can't even tell what it is. But it was done with love. Right? And even if you show that picture to someone else, they feel it too. Oh my God, you're so nice. So we're all still Krishna's conscious children. Some of us are teenagers now. But in the beginning, we were just children, really, at least for me, I just wanted to see Prabhupada. So that was my motivation for selling. I didn't particularly have compassion for the fallen souls. But, whatever could motivate you, that was the point. So, what do you think, lawyer? No?
Hare Krishna. Try Transcendental Book Distribution. So I just wanted to tell a couple of stories from the very early days. I joined in 71. And when I joined, I remember the first thing Baladru said, so we just go out and chant Hare Krishna. So that's the first engagement was just go out from morning till evening chanting Hare Krishna. And then after a little while, he said, because some devotees were distributing Back to Godhead magazines. So, you think you could distribute Back to Godhead magazines? No, I don't think so. It's kind of scary, after chanting and being in this bubble of nectar. Anyway, okay, so it was quite amazing that somebody would actually give some money for it. And I remember the first time I distributed a Sri Shobanishad, I got $5. So I said, wow, how did that happen? If we just step out, Krishna reciprocates. Anyway, then the big development that happened was when the Krishna book was published. And now we were told we have to distribute Krishna book.
Big one.
And the big one, the big Krishna book.
Silver one.
Yeah, there was no paperback then, it was a big one. We did in Japan. Three of them.
Wasn't it two?
Two. In the beginning, two volumes. And that just seemed impossible to distribute a big book. But, Charudesha Prabhu was one of the leaders, fired everyone up. We went out and, go door to door. We were just doing everything on the street. We had to go door to door to people's homes. And I still remember the first, Krishna. They actually, they gave $10. It just seemed impossible to do that.
It's like $50 nowadays.
Yeah. Anyway, it was a big amount. And then going out with Charudesha Prabhu. He was fearless. I remember we used to go to college campuses. He would go in the dorms, not the women's dorms, in the men's dorms. In lily white campuses all around South Carolina. And once or twice, the cops came after us. And we knew if he got it, he was going to be in big trouble. Whenever I was with him, he never got caught, but he almost got caught. But it was just, he was so eager. It really inspired me. I got fired up to do fearless book distribution by Charudesha. And the last story I want to tell was in the Atlanta airport. So I was distributing books, and then, there's Governor Jimmy Carter. And so,
Was he the president at the time?
huh?
Was Was he
Not governor.
He was the governor.
He was the governor of Georgia, practically unknown out of Georgia, outside of Georgia. So I just handed him a Christian book. I go, Governor Carter, take this book. And he was walking pretty fast. He had a couple of aides behind him. He says, could you give a little donation? So he just turned around, said to one of his aides, he handed the book to him, and killed himself.
Wow.
And the most exciting part is, I learned afterwards he was on his way to Washington, D.C. to inaugurate his presidential campaign.
Wow.
With Krishna in his life.
We have comedy, so something that's related to that.
In Chicago, for Thanksgiving, Shiva Ram Prabhu at that time took all the devotees from Chicago, and I happened to be there distributing books. I was actually from Seattle Airport. And Shiva Ram asked me, found out that Jimmy Carter was coming through the airport. So he said that he wanted me to go out to the gate because he knew exactly what gate he would be at. And he said, go to the gate and stand where there was a division between...
Was he president then?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was, and he was coming. He would fly in that. What do they call it? Air Force One.
He was yes.
Maybe he's still running
He was
for
out-
president.
yes. So he said, just wait, he was president.
Oh, you look into the airport.
Because, okay, so he said, stand right behind the wall. Inside would be the people that had their tickets and were ready to board. And then there was an aisle, and he said, they said that, the authorities said that anyone could stand at that little wall, and he would come and shake hands with everyone. So I got out there fairly early, so I had a spot right there at the little wall. And pretty soon we saw President Carter come, and he was going from person to person, and they were shaking his hand. So I had the Bhagavad Gita. At that time we were distributing yellow Bhagavad Gitas. And I had a yellow Bhagavad Gita in my hand. Should I wait?
No, there you go.
Okay, so I had the Bhagavad Gita in my left hand, and he was coming back. Of course, I had to shake hands with him with my right hand. So he reached out to me with his right hand, and just as his hand was about to hit my hand, I immediately hit him with the right. And I said, this is Gandhi's favorite book. This is the Bhagavad Gita. And he took it in his hand, and he went, thank you very much. Okay, so the story doesn't end
Then
there.
later, like a week or two later, he went to
So
India.
2 weeks later, Shiva Ram called me up to his office, Prabhu called me up to his office and said, I have something to show you. And it was a newspaper clipping of Jimmy Carter, President Carter, standing at the top, outside the door of his airplane, getting ready to go down the ramp on the flight line at that time. And he stood at the very top of the stairs
In New Delhi.
in New Delhi at the airport, and he held up the Bhagavad Gita in front of all the newspapers that were watching him and all the cameras. He said, do you know why I love India? And he said, because the Bhagavad Gita is from India.
One thing about the passion, there's a saying, the passion of youth. So what better way to use it than in distributing books?
John.
Not that you're in the mode of passion, but it takes some passion and otherwise it's a mode of ignorance, lethargy, inactivity. So the passion of acting is very valuable.
Yeah.
But Gindra said Jimmy Carter's parents were missionaries.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Jimmy Carter's parents.
Parents were missionaries in India.
Really?
So I'll mention about
Before
an experience I had, and it relates to transcendental passion. In my business, I'm always looking for great art pieces to sell, and I heard this lady in Palm Beach, a multi-millionaire, lived in a $30 million mansion, had these particular pieces at a real good price. So I went down there, and she was actually a very kind and nice lady. And we got to talking, and I said, well, I belong to the Hare Krishnas. And she immediately, her whole face and demeanor changed, and I said, oh my God, I hope I didn't say the wrong thing. So she said, just a minute. And she went running out of the room, and she came back, and she had a Bhagavad Gita, she had a book about Srila Prabhupada, and it was a whole stack of books. She says, we took a trip down the Ganges, and we went to your temple, that beautiful big temple. And the thing that I remember the most was this young man who gave us these books. He was so excited, could be passion, and he kept saying, these books will change your life. These books will change your life. Please take these books, give a donation. And she said, it stuck with me to this day. And she pulled out another book. She had all these pictures of Mayapur and this devotee, a little Bengali devotee, who gave that book. And she said he was so enthusiastic. He was determined to give us these books. So that's what I call transcendental passion.
Any other questions?
Well, it said in the Bhagavad Gita that happiness in the mode of passion is like nectar in the beginning, and then it turns to like poison. So Krishna gave me two instances where I can, fortunately I wasn't experiencing it, but I got to see how that was true in the lives of other people. One was, it was about 25 years ago. I was in the Delta terminal. It was Terminal 5 at the time, and it was late in the afternoon. It was about 3 o'clock. In LAX. And so it was a quiet time, and I was just finished lunch. I got back up on the concourse there. And I looked off, and in the distance, maybe about from here to where the front door is, I see somebody coming, being pushed in a wheelchair. And I couldn't really make out who it was, but as the person got a bit closer, I could see that, wait a second, that looks like Muhammad Ali. And sure enough, it was Muhammad Ali, and he was in a wheelchair, and a lady was pushing him. I couldn't tell. She looked about kind of the same age as him. I couldn't really know what the relationship was. But anyway, she came, and there was nobody else around. So when he got a bit closer, I said, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said, hi, you're Muhammad Ali, or something. I can't remember what I said, but I gave him books, and he was happy to receive them. And I just said, well, people give a donation, you give a donation to help out. And he accepted the books, he was holding them, and he was wanting to give a donation. And then the lady, whoever she was, whether it was his wife or a caregiver, I don't know who it was, but she goes, you don't need those books, you don't want those books, give them back. And he had Parkinson's at that point, he was in the wheelchair, he was kind of shaking. And so he gave them back, and then she just kind of pushed them away. And I just went, wow, what a lesson, because Muhammad Ali was, the world heavyweight champion. He was kind of like, if anybody was in the mode of passion, enjoying happiness in the mode of passion, he'd be definitely in the top of the list there. But here it was, just, some, 15, 20 years later, with Parkinson's, being pushed in a wheelchair by this lady who was, as far as I was concerned, grossly mistreating him, disrespecting him. you know, and so it just gave me a lesson. Well, happiness is the road of passion. It's not what I'm going
I
to.
got something else to say about Ali.
Yeah, that's not what I'm going to strive for, because look, he had it, and he had everything. He was the world heavyweight champion, but here he was being pushed in a wheelchair with Parkinson's disease and being disrespected by this lady. She wasn't even good looking, you know.
So back in 1974, 75, Ali was like the number 2 most popular person in the world, behind the Pope. And some surveys said he was number 1. And he just moved from Louisville up to Chicago because his agent was Don King, who had his office there. Somehow or another he convinced Ali to come up there. So he moved up to Chicago. So within a few weeks after that, so you have to understand now, no celebrity flies commercial. But back then, they all flew commercial except for a few people. Even big celebrities. So we would see him because Chicago's the main transfer point, but this was where he started. So he came to the airport that day, and I met him at the terminal, and I stopped, and he actually was so nice. He stopped and talked to me. I was kind of surprised because I dealt with a lot of celebrities before. They would just be cordial but move on. I found out later on that he for anybody, he would sign an autograph and stop. But he actually was serious about the information I was giving to him. So he took a book and he had a handler with him. He said, give him some money. So he wasn't carrying the money, he had somebody give money. Then like a month ago, after that, he came through again. This was at a different terminal. And because we had different devotees from different places, I had arranged which devotees got to work different terminals depending on how busy they were. They couldn't get it just because seniority, because we had Chicago devotees we had to take care of, not just the traveling devotees, even if they were sannyasis. So I organized it, so I figured out, okay, I'll take the slower terminal. So I went to like TWA. Yeah. He came out, this was like the 3rd time he took books. Then, that time he came out of a VIP entrance. He only had like 10 feet to get to the gate. So the elevator opens up. He was carrying 2 bags. He saw me, he already recognized me, he dropped both bags. He was spooked out because each time he came either American, United, and he was nothing to get away. So he saw me, and then the 5th time he stopped, and I was at one of the main terminals. Pragosha was with me, Tripurari Swami. I remember Kavi Chandra Swami. And so there were some Christian groups over there also producing work. I don't know, so he told them, you cannot tell me who I am. I'm going to talk to these people. He came over and he was actually discussing the philosophy. Then the 6th time he came through, he actually confided in me. He says, this is all, in everything, but what about the sex? Later on that he had a problem. He was confiding me that how can I do this? Because he knew that he was doing something that wasn't helping him. But it showed he was sincere. He was a sincere seeker.
He was.
And then after that, like another time, Angelo Dundee came through. At that time, he was known as the best boxing coach in the world. He was added to Ali's team. Angelo Dundee. So I stopped him to give him a book.
Who's that?
He's the best boxing coach. Boxing. Professional.
Oh, he was the coach of Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, he was the coach. So Angelo Dundee came through. I stopped him. Usually I would just say, where are you coming from? Okay, whoever it was. But if I recognized him, I would say something. But anyways, he stopped. And then I said, take a book, whatever it was. He says, oh, the champ has these all over his training. all over his training center. He had a training center. And as Nandi says, the books are all over. So, you told the story about Ali. It was unfortunate because that was 25 years after. That's what happened to him. he made a lot of spiritual advancements in his lifetime.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I talked about.
There's a book by Samapriya, that Dhruva Maharaj's wife, and she wrote that she was distributed in LAX, and she would see him. And every time he'd take books and give a donation. And again and again and again. He became a Muslim to get closer to God, right? Because he used to, because Cassius Clay, I am the greatest. And then afterwards he said, I'm not the greatest. Allah is the greatest. Yeah.
Well, there was a time, when America had all the
There was the
segregation period.
what was it? The black Muslims or
Yes,
something
black
like that?
Muslims. It was just starting about that time.
Elijah Muhammad.
Was he wasn't part of that though, was he?
Yeah.
He
He
was?
was actually defending them when they were getting rid of Malcolm X, and he stuck with Elijah Muhammad. But then when he found out Elijah Muhammad had some kind of sexual relations with some of the people, some of the younger women, then Ali separated. But he was with Elijah Muhammad for a while.
I was just saying, Charlie Deshner doing book distribution at Atlanta Airport. Atlanta, the heart of the South, and he's black, and he's approaching all these white businessmen, and that was the 1970s, and that's really fearless.
Yes.
You know about that, right?
Yeah, I was 18 and very shy, so it was hard for me to tell.
Because I remember you told, was it last year, you were like a kid and you were doing the stoplights in Chicago, and most times people would just insult you and send you off.
Yeah, I was very shy, so Charlie Deshawn, he was Krishna conscious, confident, so he can overcome all those difficulties easily. The typical thing what would happen, you get stopped. First time I went out, I don't know if it was a beginner or someone, the police stopped us, and they were typical line, they go, you got two problems. You're black and a Hare Krishna.
But Charlie Deshner told that himself, right?
We're going to deal with both.
He was in Tennessee somewhere, and some cop came and put him up against him and said, hey boy, you got three problems. One thing, you're a Hare Krishna. Next thing, you're black. And number three is, you're in my territory. You had to deal with that, right? And you just went on fearless.
Yeah, well, especially
Transcended the bodily concept of life.
when you get fired up, it's like nothing really bothers you.
Yeah.
It's like,
We don't know, because we in this lifetime we didn't have to deal with that. That's another added obstacle. It's something we just, we don't know.
I'm going to ask the Mogul leader to finish the story. I was visiting the temple in 1972. Just, because I'm from Atlanta. At that time I was an entertainer and I had this whole persona going on. So then I met Vishnu John Swami. And then they introduced me to him. They said, this is Bhakta Ben, he comes to the temple. He said, oh, we're going to have some good times. And then the next day, they invited me to go to Harinam. Again, I'm not living in the temple, I'm new, just getting started. I don't know how many devotees, maybe 35, 40 devotees, it seemed like. We were downtown Atlanta, and the police locked up the entire kirtan party.
Oh my God.
The entire party. And Vishnu John Swami never once stopped chanting. And the cop told him, stop that buzzing beat. He kept chanting. And then he sat down in the jail and started Bhagavatam. So Mogul leader can take it over from there.
Because he was there with us. And I should give a little background first. So we had a big Lord Chaitanya festival in the park. And we had to say that it was not a religious groups were not allowed to have. So fortunately the head of the parks was a very nice gentleman. And so we became friends. And so he knew we were Hare Krishnas, but he was in our favor. So he said, and it's not a religious organization, so we had this huge festival, Vishnu Maharaj was leading kirtans. So in those days, there was a thing called the Safe Streets and Sidewalks Act in Atlanta. I don't know why it was started. I don't think it was for us, but they applied it to us. And when we were doing kirtans in front of businesses, they would complain. So it happened quite a few times, they got complaints. So we were a little afraid, but Vishnu Maharaj was, no. So we had a big kirtan, and all the, I don't think there were any women that were arrested, were there? I don't think so. Little southern culture, They didn't arrest them, but all the brahmacharis and householders were in jail with Vishnu Maharaj, and it was blissful. One of the most exciting results of getting her. I've been arrested a few times here and there. That was definitely the most blissful time.
Was it just for a few hours or?
Oh no, we were there for several days. He gave a Bhagavatam class. He was just doing kirtan, going on and on. And then actually Balavanta Prabhu told Krishna Prabhupada that we're having this problem. Prabhupada said to Srila Prabhupada, said, just find one gentleman who is influential in the city, and he will solve all your problems. So there was a lawyer, Balavanta contacted him. I think he may have known him already. And as a result of that one gentleman then speaking to the authorities, that whole problem was resolved and we could do street sankirtan.
One last part of the story. So the end of the story, which I wasn't there, my ex-wife came and got me out of jail in the middle of the day. Yeah. And I didn't want to leave, I wanted to stay there. So I was telling this story at a home program with Ramapal Swami in New Jersey. And Lakshmi Nrsimha Prabhu was in the audience. And after I told my part of the story, he said, Balabhadra, I was there too. I went, really? I didn't know that. I didn't realize that you were there. So Lakshmi Nrsimha told this other part of the story. That morning, when they got up or whatever, there was an old African-American gentleman who was there overnight. Maybe he was intoxicated, whatever it was. So he woke up and looked around, saw white bodies, white clothes, and the sun was coming.
He's already gone to heaven. He's already gone to heaven.
He said, am I in heaven? Whoa! When he saw all the devotees, am I in heaven? So the impact that we have just by being who we are, it shines through. Like I always tell people sometimes in Sankirtan, I turn to Prabhupada. I said, that's my father. They look at me. They look at Prabhupada. He's a little brown, I guess. Because he is my father. It's a question, just tell the truth. Prabhupada is your grandfather. That's my grandfather. And I'm very proud of this book. Actually, when I do book distribution, I'm very proud of that book. Look how nicely it's printed. This is, me coming from the so-called hood with this incredible book that I'm selling, it's amazing. So I make them feel as amazed as me. They say in selling, the secret is, it's a transference of conviction. You sell something you don't believe in, you don't do well. You believe in it, it goes like anything. So if you believe in Prabhupada's books, like I know all of you do, no matter how rough it is, no matter what people say about you, Chardeshna, I was there one day, a guy practically broke his hand. Practically, shaking his hand, practically broke it. He didn't cry, he didn't complain, he got up and just kept trying to do book distribution. Same thing with Pagosh. Some guy punched him, and he got up. So if you believe in these books, which again, I know you all do, you just go with conviction. Whoever can be the governor. Two of my most amazing experiences at the Atlanta airport, there's a lot of them, but two. One is meeting one of the most well-known radical black activists of the 60s, Stokely Carmichael. You don't know who that is, but he was like the guy. Malcolm X up north, Stokely Carmichael around here. So then I met him, and I explained to him about Srila Prabhupada. I didn't talk about ancient India, yoga, I just talked about Prabhupada. Because I knew this man was into strong personalities. Wow. So I described Prabhupada's life. He took 3 books, gave me $15. Whoa! That's crazy. The other one is Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta Scott King. We were selling candles at the time, making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we had a surplus of books in the basement of the Atlanta Temple. So much so that the covers were sticking together. But we stopped doing book distribution. So being fired up, we went to our temple president, local Lorenzo Kubu. Can we take these books and go out on Sankirtan? It was on a Sunday. He said, yeah, go ahead. Because we made thousands during the week. That Sunday when we went to the airport, in the D concourse, which is the worst concourse at the airport, very slow. Coretta Scott King is walking up the concourse. I know who she is. I said, Miss King, so wonderful to meet you. I want to share something with you. Again, I told her about Prabhupada, because we were just distributing the first volume of Leela Amrita with Prabhupada shaved up. And I just explained about it. And she took the book, put it to her chest, and said, thank you so much, thank you so much. And I saw her several times after that at the King Center. I gave her Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. She was such a gracious person. So we have to be kind. Vaishnavas are all kind. And when the people meet us in a kind mood, we're selling books, it doesn't matter if you're fired up, not fired up, but be kind. Because that carries a lot of weight.
Can I add to the King story a little bit?
Yeah.
Actually, she became vegetarian too, and you may not be aware that when her husband, Martin Luther King, was in the university, his professor, they were actually, I don't know how to describe it, but anyway, they somewhat followers of Gandhi.
Yes.
So he imbibed that into him, that culture of nonviolence, with religious conviction, and he used that as his method for trying to right the injustices, I guess you could say.
Civil disobedience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at one point, he went to India, actually.
Oh.
As a matter of fact, I said, you see they wear those Maharashtra hats.
Yeah. He went to India and
He got Bhagavad Gita, all these things. So he modeled his movement after. You can tell Christians this. What more Christian can you be than he was? Yet he embraced India. So the Indian Council, as a matter of fact, has put a statue of Gandhi down at the King Center. And they used to honor, Gandhi's birthday, they would do a big celebration down there annually at the King Center. So a few times I've gone there and sell books. A lot of tourists go. You just don't want to think that Bhagavad Gita. It used to be in the exhibit too, matter of fact, if you look in there. It's still there. You can tell, he's got Bhagavad Gita, you should take one. So I'm Christian. Well, Ms. King took a Bhagavad Gita. Gandhi's statue is there, how can they say they have to take it? So sometimes it gets busy down there. That's a pretty good place to sell Gitas, for sure. So.
Is there anyone in the world today, like in America today, like that, who's got like very principled and
Like King?
yeah?
No.
There's no reason. I was thinking if you could catch someone like that.
No, there's a lot of active social activist people.
Yeah, this kind of.
Black Lives Matter, so many things are there.
So they got the Civil Rights Museum. They're trying to keep that spirit.
Well, I just spoke at the Civil Rights Museum along with 2 senators and all these different people. They were trying to build a relationship with the Hindu community. Because one of the things that I do, I'm the president of a Hindu-based organization, so they asked me to come and speak. And they were because I wore dhoti, tilak, the whole 9 yards. And they were just fascinated. There are some serious people in this city who want to connect with our culture. They think it's Hinduism, but they're our culture, Sanatana Dharma culture. We just have to reach out. Do book distribution, absolutely, but like Balavanta, he became a personal friend of the first black mayor of Atlanta, Maynard Jackson. And whenever we had a problem, we take him some cookies, and he said, my wife told me I need to, I can't eat all this. Then he'd take the cookies in the back and eat them. And then he would, whatever the problem was at the airport or in the city, he'd call up and say, leave these people alone. I have pictures of Balavanta sitting on the stage with Maynard Jackson talking to this guy. His name was Lester Maddox. Lester Maddox is the most racist governor in the history of the country. But when Balavanta's talking to him, he's completely listening. He was fascinated. And then the last one is Hosea Williams. who marched with Martin Luther King. He was on the same ticket with Balavanta. I have a picture of Jose with Garland eating prashadam, because Balavanta was absolutely bold. And when the picture of Balavanta went to Bombay to Prabhupada, they showed him with a shirt, tie, jacket, tilak, sita, and a dhoti. And Prabhupada was so proud of him. But here's the end of the story. He ran for mayor. I used to go out every day getting signatures for him. He only got a certain number of votes. Prabhupada told him, he asked him to come to New York. I want to talk politics with you. He told Balavanta, you'll be president in 10 years. But because of that environment, the political environment, devotees became somewhat contaminated. Prabhupada wrote back to him and told him, stop it. Stop the whole campaign. This is what he said. Just take care of the Krishna consciousness of the devotees in Atlanta. And I myself am a product of that, because he really took care of us so nicely. Hare Krishna.
Since we're talking about the South and spreading Krishna consciousness here, I remember in '76, I was also in Louisville, Kentucky. Radha Damodar party had parked there for some time. And I actually met Colonel Sanders. But I think
we went from Martin Luther King to Colonel Sanders. We're both famous.
but he wasn't pious enough. He killed too many birds, I think. It just wasn't. He couldn't.
He's still getting the karma for the ones that are still being killed. Yeah.
But on another note, more positive, just to show the long-term effects of book distribution, she mentioned Jimmy Carter had received some books in the 70s. Around 10 or 20 years later, I think it was his sister, Rosalind. No.
That's his Rosalind Carter.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't remember her name, but somehow she became close to Tamal Krishna Goswami, and she would always visit him whenever she was in Dallas. And she took his spiritual advice very seriously. She was very respectful. I think, she must have been introduced to Krishna consciousness by her brother. I don't know how else that connection would have been made. But, the books, you don't know where they go. They go. Prabhupada said you just put the books out there and the books will act.
Srila Prabhupada was very pleased when he got the news that books had been distributed to the children of, who was the president at the time? Nixon, was it? I can't remember. And he said that the kids must have had the security, but the security let them, and he said that they must have shown to their father, look, see what books we got. Remember that? There's a letter from Prabhupada that books have been distributed to children of the president. I can't remember which president.
President Nixon at that time.
I think it was Nixon, yeah.
I'd like to add something about that.
So Balavanta Prabhu was the Tamil president, and with Srila Prabhupada's blessings, he ran for mayor of Atlanta and then for legislature. And in the process, he was on TV with other candidates. And once, I'll make this quick, he
Yeah, it's not quick.
Prabhupada told him, just talk about the four regular principles. So he would talk about the four, and they would say no intoxication, no smoking. And the other in those days, people used to smoke, even on TV, politicians would smoke. So then people would obviously. But the best part is finally Srila Prabhupada, when Bond was asking Prabhupada how to do this, and Prabhupada said, your success will be when you distribute my books through this political.
Haribol.
I'm just like, my service to the Sankirtan mission is always serving the Vaishnavas. I had the wonderful opportunity of traveling with Tripurari Maharaj for 1 year and being his I would go to different temples and train the cooks also and cook for his party, and then I would do the laundry for the devotees who were going out on Sankirtan. And every day when we were in Chicago for 1 month, and I would bring the prasadam out to the devotees and serve them wonderful prasadam. And 2 days out of the week, I would go out on book distribution. And I just remember this one time when I went out with, I went with Kavi Chandra Swami, and he allowed me to distribute a book with him. And it was very enlivening just to have that opportunity, and I would regularly go out once a week. I don't have that good a memory of exactly the interactions, but it was such an enlivening experience to interact with the public and give them Srila Prabhupada's books and have that opportunity to experience the mellow of book distribution. It was very enlivening.
I'd like to tell a story that's pretty interesting. When we were given the Seattle airport, a women's party was given the Seattle airport. And our Sankirtan leader was Pujavali, Devi Dasi. Our temple president was Rochan Prabhu. And one time, I was sitting, we were taking a break, and right below me, sitting in a chair at one of the gates, there was a briefcase. And in the briefcase was just sitting there, and we were thinking, something special about this briefcase. So I picked it up and put it in my lap and opened it, and it was full of $100 bills. It was packed with $100 bills. So we were thinking what to do with this, right? Okay, so we called Pujavali up, and Pujavali said, just stay where you are, don't move, leave the briefcase where it is, I'm coming right to the airport. So 20 minutes, half an hour later, she's there. She opens it up and sees all these $100 bills. Now, Seattle Airport, SeaTac, was pretty amazing because we had a wonderful relationship with the police department. And they trusted us like anything. So Pujavali, she decided, okay, we have to turn this in. Okay, wait a minute. So we turned it in, and okay, so that's that. Now, after that, the people couldn't speak against us at the airport. They always supported us, the police department. About 20 years later, I was going through the airport to visit my parents that lived up in Sequim, Washington, and I looked up at this to the second floor, and I saw who had been a young officer at that time. He was the contact for the Hare Krishnas from the police department. He was upstairs, and so I quickly took the elevator up, and I introduced myself. I said, "You probably don't remember me, but," he said, "Oh, I do remember you." He says, "You're Alice Acker."
Wow.
He remembered my Carmi name, and then he said, we just started talking, and he said, "Oh, so how are all the girls doing?" He said, "How's Joni?" And I said, "Oh, Joni is, she's married, she lives in Connecticut, and her husband's the temple president there." And he asked about every one of the girls. He wanted to know what their life had turned out like, what they were like. And afterwards, it was just amazing. He was so happy to see me. And what that did was it kind of solidified his relationship with us. And he became like, we all became part of his family.
So if you
Yeah.
go work CTAC, along with the ATL, you can work CTAC. That's Seattle Tacoma International Airport. There's big money at CTAC because it's 6 a.m. They were at the airport at 6 a.m. because a big flight came in from Alaska, which took many hours. What they do is the workers up there, at least at that time, they work on north of Alaska drilling for oil, and they would work like a month straight because we live in Texas or Louisiana, the family was still down there. They'd say, you work up there a month straight, you're gonna get double overtime. Then you get off 2 weeks. So, and they would often pay them in cash, right?
Oh,
So these guys came in, and so you guys went out there, you were out there at 6 a.m. to meet the plane. Planes, yeah, they come in, and that's one of the benefits of SeaTac. Plus, all the guys from Korea, we used to benefit the servicemen a lot, because for some reason they believed in God, and Bhagavad Gita, of course, is about a military man. And anyways, that was one of our, at least 50% of our business at the airport, in Atlanta too, right? Okay, so in SeaTac also, all the guys from Korea, which they allow them, they'd all go through SeaTac. So I don't know what it's like now, but that's the situation. I don't know how many airports even are allowed devotees anymore, but St. Louis allows devotees.
Chicago,
oh yeah, Chicago.
Microphone?
Just wanted to respond to Mukunda Datta Prabhu's attempt to distribute to Colonel Sanders. There is a devotee in San Diego who is the grandson of Colonel Sanders, and he inherited a good portion of Colonel Sanders' wealth. And he's one of the main contributors at the San Diego Temple.
I was going to say maybe some results of selling books. Like myself, I became devoted really from reading the books, and I lived small town. I don't know if you heard Deer, Indiana, very small little town.
You were pretty young when you came, weren't you?
Yeah, I was 18, but my brother always curious, wanted to know, I guess like most of the people, I would say, but you couldn't find any information. And when he started university in Chicago, so he was right that South Shore line down to Chicago in 71, my brother. And they hadn't started the temple yet, but he bumped into the Harinam party and bought the Godhead magazine and brought it home, and I read it. And so that began my Krishna conscious journey. One of the stories I always think about is, I can't remember his name, he's a member of our temple. But anyway, his father had bought a book, took it home, put it on the shelf, never touched it for who knows years. He's born, he becomes a teenager, he takes that Bhagavad Gita off the shelf, he becomes a devotee. So maybe, I don't know, 15 years later, it made him a devotee.
Power of Srila Prabhupada's books. In the late 60s, we did the hippie trek, my girlfriend and I, and we spent a year looking for something, but all we found was drugs, rock and roll, and sex. The same thing we had before. So we came back very disillusioned, and we entered back from Amsterdam, we came to New York City, and we were going to take a bus from the Port Authority bus station up to Canada. And lo and behold, little mother Daivi Shakti, she's in Vrindavan now, and she has a wonderful bookstore there called Matchless Gifts. She came up to me, and here I was, a long hair, if you can believe it, long hair, big beard, sheepskin jacket, and total hippiedom, but mad hippie, because we were not happy. And she gave me a Rasa Leela edition of Back to Godhead. And we went on our way, we hitchhiked across Canada, came back to Vancouver, and somehow or other kept that book with us. It just stayed with us, and then we ended up coming to Vancouver Temple. So whenever I see Devi Shakti now in Vrindavan, I offer her full dandavats because she basically saved our lives. So Srila Prabhupada's book is usually key.
She's still distributing books as well. Many, many books.
Well, there's another thing, just a quick one here. One year there was a movie that won the Academy Award for Best Picture, Woody Allen's movie Hannah and his sisters. And for some reason, Woody wanted the devotees to be in the movie. And if you go back and look at the clips, Devi Shakti's husband, Nana Varan, he has a speaking part. He's actually handing Woody Allen a book and the Bhagavad Gita, and he says something about it, and Woody Allen says something nice about it. So that's another point about Devi Shakti and Nana Varan.
Yeah, actually, Devi Shakti, she made quite a few devotees. The Devarika Maharaj, Chandramali Maharaj also. And I talked to her about that. She said, yeah, I used to go out to that Port Authority.
Oh, yeah.
And she said, actually I wasn't going to sell books, I was going to make brahmacharis. And she asked what my goal was. I find them and I just, she just make them surrender.
Devi Shakti, next to him.
Quite a few, many other devotees. You'll be surprised some of these really big devotees. Oh yeah, Devi Shakti, I've never heard.
Prabhupada gave it the exact right name.
Yeah.
There's another interesting story. Bhavananda was in New York, and before he became a devotee, he made certain friends in the Andy Warhol group and some other groups. Anyways, 20 years later, we get a call. Well, actually, we're out at Venice Beach, which we have a Harinam around Gorpranim, and luckily it was a good Harinam because Vyasika Prabhu was in town and he read. So somebody comes up to us and talked to me and said, well, I've been looking for you guys. We hadn't gone on Sankirtan for a while. That was on Gorpranim, so we had a big... I said, so what's happening? He said, well, we're looking for you. We want to be in a movie. I said, well, we could talk about it, and what is it? Call me up. So at that time, it was Joel Schumacher was the director, and he told us later on he wanted us to be in the movie because he knew Bhavananda from way back. And you can hear the chanting in the movie. It's called Falling Down with Michael Douglas, which was pretty big in the box office that year. One with, I'll just tell you a quick one. We also had chanting. Yeah, Falling Down. And then many years before that, we were out in LA in Hollywood Boulevard. Every Friday we chant in Hollywood Boulevard. And the producer came out and said, we want you guys to be in the movie. We ended up in the movie Death Wish 2 with Charles Bronson, which was number 3 in the box office that year. And if you look at that, there's also a clip, and we're chanting right down Hollywood Boulevard. I'm in the front row, me and Dear Krishna.
Movie star.
But it shows that the chanting is being heard. And it's based on the Sankirtan. So
I would like to hear from some of you some of the experiences that you had.
Okay, well, there's a hand right up there right now.
I have more of a question. Just relating to how devotees can be attacked. Once I was distributing a book on the University Avenue in Seattle. I used to live in Seattle. And one lady came with a Pepsi bottle and hit on my head. So that thing happens even now. But my question more is, Prabhuji, you mentioned that in CTAC people come in from Alaska. So what is our official position right now? Are we allowed to distribute in airports or no?
it depends. Some airports, most of them, they made regulations that you have to go outside the terminal. There are a few like St. Louis and Chicago where they can actually go inside the terminal. And I guess Atlanta, you can go inside?
We're on the curve.
Okay. So it depends on the particular airport, what regulation you want. Some have total exclusions, like Orlando. It was unfortunate, but those airports for a while were our best places. But now I think even if you had an airport, you might still go to colleges, right?
What airport do you want outside?
I was praying to get out. we were in LAX, and then after 9/11, everybody got cleared out. And when we went back, it was like we had so much competition. We were only like one of 15 groups. Because, people would see us doing it, and they'd catch on that, we could do this too. So different groups representing different charities would be in there, and it'd be like 50 of them and 3 of us. And it was, it was really difficult. So actually, towards the end, about 2006, I was praying to Krishna. I don't want to pray against the devotees, but I don't want to be in this airport anymore. And we got out. We lost the case, and we started doing schools, and it's been much better. We actually doubled the amount of books we distributed.
No, actually, you discovered so many more places once you were forced to leave. I think it was Krishna's arrangement, actually, huh? Wasn't it? So, anyway.
So, all of you all over here have, performed Sankirtan and maintained the spirit of Sankirtan through all your ups and downs, difficulties, and things like that in life. So, several of us looking ahead, there's this desire that practically I think all of the devotees here would express is that we want to be able to perform Sankirtan, be connected to the Sankirtan mission for the rest of our life. From your personal experience and realization, what would you say to us?
2 minutes since I got the mic. Still, my motivation has always been because I just wanted Prabhupada to be happy with me. And I knew this makes him happy. And it is important, it's practical also. Distributing books, not just, but it's a very practical thing. So, but I just want Prabhupada to be happy. And I know these books need to be distributed. That's what person keeps me going.
It's kind of emotional when I think about what you're asking. Because a lot of times people ask me, Balabaji, do you still go downtown and Sankirtan every weekend or every week and da-da-da-da? And I tell them, I said, downtown is my temple. And the people down there are my congregation. And I'm indebted to downtown Atlanta. Why? First devotee I met I was standing downtown, waiting for the bus to go home from work, and Bhakta Bill, later on Vaishnavananda, came up to me and said, Hare Krishna. And I was probably intoxicated. I said, what's that? A few other expletive words. So he had mercy upon me. I'm standing in a line of at least 50 or 60 people. He came directly to me and gave me a book and convinced me. And it's a simple little story. I only had bus fare to go home from work. It's the middle of the week, no check. I think it was 35 cents in my pocket. And I said, man, I only have 35 cents on me. What can I do? He said, give it. God will help you. I'm standing there, no bus fare. How am I going to get home? But he impressed me so much with his conviction. As I said earlier, his conviction transferred over to me. And I had to have that book. And that was just an amazing thing. So what keeps me going is looking for more Balabhadras, Mahotsav, Vishnu, just looking for them. And I'm meeting them all the time. Maybe they don't join the temple. See, that's another thing. Join the temple or improve their lives. So my meditation is how to help them improve their lives a little bit. And then what they do with that later on, because no one knew that I would become a devotee. When I met Amoga Leela, I just told him earlier, I said, it was your smile that made me join the temple. I'm not exaggerating. I am not exaggerating. Because I would come and sit with him in the office, and he would just smile. I said, I need to be with these people. So thank you for that. So if we just keep going, whatever happens in your future, I was a brahmachari 8 years. I'm a grihastha now for the last 42 years. So it doesn't matter. The Hasta Brahmacharya, Lord Chaitanya doesn't see it like that. He told the Brahmana Kurma, was the South Indian. And Brahmana Kurma wanted to travel with Lord Chaitanya, leave the village, leave his home. You all know the verse. Yare Deke. Lord Chaitanya said, you stay here, preach, make everyone Krishna conscious. So that is my exact. Sippy always jokes with me, Balabhadra's never lived in another temple. That's right. I don't need to leave Atlanta. It's right here. Everything I need to preach is right here for the rest of my life. And the last thing is, two things. My wife, she says, when I die, cremate me, throw my ashes on the New Panihati Dam. Not the Ganges, New Panihati Dam. That's her life. So I'm always thinking, one day I'll be downtown Harinam, and the cops are going to say, 911, this guy is dead. So if I die on Harinam, I'm fine. So I'm convinced, after 50 years, that I could do this. I can stay here. I can make it the rest of my life preaching. Charvadeshna, 2 weeks before he really fell sick, was trying to go on Harinam with me. I have a special chair for Charvadeshna because he couldn't stand. He would just sit there. And then when he got fired up, he'd get up and start moving around, but he could barely walk. 2 weeks he was trying to go on Harinam. And Bhakta Tim, some of you met Bhakta Tim, he's my cohort every time he goes on Sankirtan. So he called me and said, Prabhu, I can't bring him. I cannot bring him. He's too sick. I was like, oh my God. 2 weeks later, a few weeks after that, you guys all came to see him. Yeah. Charvadeshna was so happy when you came. I was so proud of you. I don't know how you pulled it off, but you were all over that place. And the nurses, they said, he must be an important man. Oh, yeah. He was so happy. You blessed, you helped him transition. Because he loved all of you so much. He loved the devotees at Krishna Life. And he really appreciated meeting Maharaj. We had a private lunch with him. He just loved you. He had nothing
We
but
met him at
good
the
things.
festival. Which festival was that? The sweet.
Yeah.
Juneteenth. We met him.
So just keep remembering devotees like Charvadeshna, Rigupati, Sikh, all of just remember, this is our life. We'll do this until we die. We may have jobs, we may be business people, musicians, whatever it is, we're still going to do. I mean, there's not been 1 year in my 50 years that I've not done Sankirtan and Harinam. Period. End of story. So don't tell me there's an excuse why you can't do it for the rest of your life. Keep doing it.
I just had something quick to answer your specific question. Krishna conscious is something every moment, every second you're making a decision of what to do, to go one way or go the other way. Usually it means Maya or Krishna. So, but you take certain vows, but I've seen devotees that try to take other vows, and it's just too much, because the first thing is to save yourself. We want to save everybody else, but don't take a vow that say that you'll always do this or always do that. That's my opinion. Prabhupada never asked his disciples to take certain vows like that you're always going to do this or always going to do that. He made certain vows and that was it. Now other people later on, they added on certain other vows to people. Do this extra on Ekadasi, this is required or whatever. Prabhupada, he didn't make those requirements. Even the BBT calendar one year, they said, and I had to correct it, make sure they corrected it. On Bhima Ekadasi, they made it required fasting, even from water. That was not Prabhupada's plan, that was in his program. We went on Sankirtan and Bhima Ekadasi to the airport all day. We didn't fast even from water. So, this is the type of thing, you're talking about a lifelong vow. Yeah, your lifetime vow is to become Krishna conscious and to do service. So that's your lifetime vow. If you make a vow like I'm always going to be doing this or that, you might be disappointed later on because.
Want to do something else? We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, but still, this desire that you asked how to keep it alive. So, like, there's a book called A Bond of Love, and it's 300 interviews with Prabhupada's female disciples, and like almost everyone talked about how they used to distribute books, and so and plus we almost all came from getting a Back to Godhead magazine, because that was we distributed millions of Back to Godhead magazines, and they only cost 25 cents, 12 cents, and we doubled the price, so you had to get 25 cents for Back to Godhead. So if someone gave you $1, you can distribute 3 more Back to Godheads. But anyway, and then I think, so why are they no longer distributing? Because there's such a special taste that one can only experience on book distribution, and you feel someone who hasn't experienced it, they're really missing out. And how to keep it going is, first of all, that obligation. We're obliged to our spiritual master and to Srila Prabhupada for giving us. And then when we read, we think, how much this would change someone's life if they just heard this, that they're not this body, And so just to keep it the habit, just like many devotees, old devotees have even stopped chanting their rounds, or they've decreased, because everything's a habit. If you get in the habit of waking up late in the morning, then it's a habit, or you get in the habit of chanting less rounds, So the same thing with book distribution, we have to make it a habit that, okay, maybe when you're 70 years old, you won't be going out, so many hours every single day, but at least sometime, at least once a week or something like that, to keep the flame alive.
There you go. Mataji, you just issued a Bhagavatam set just like one day before you came, right, Mataji?
On Saturday.
One practical suggestion I said to Mahotsav Prabhu this morning, and I think that's more applicable to you because you go to devotee festivals and you distribute a lot of books there. Maybe you're already doing this, but there are many books which are not generally available in Prabhupada books, which are not generally available in America because BBT doesn't print them. But the BBT in India, in Juhu, has a policy of keeping all of Prabhupada's books in print. So if you could get all those books which aren't available in America, make a set. There are a lot of small books and medium books. And just meet all the devotees and say, hey, do you have all of Prabhupada's books in your home? You have this one, and sell those books, which they quite likely don't have. That's a suggestion for you. And if you can't get, if it's a hassle for you to get the books, well, devotees here can help with that.
So I want to say 2 things. One, have devotee friends, at least one friend who you can trust and open your heart to. And I'll just give one example. Wonderful result. Dr. Kevin and I were flying here from California. When we got into the airport in Sacramento, as we approached the gate, there was this very beautiful young girl. She looked like she was 14 or 15. And she smiled at me, gave me such a beautiful smile. And in my heart, I thought, she's a devotee, I've got to give her a book. Well, unfortunately, I didn't do it. But a good thing that happened was when we didn't sit together on the plane, we couldn't get seats together flying to Las Vegas, but then from there on, you arranged that we could sit beside each other. And we were talking, and I opened my heart, and I told her this story. I said, if I had just, put the book in her hand at least, or even shown her the book, who knows what Krishna would have done. Wow. And immediately, there was an Afro-American man sitting on the other side of him. Kevin got inspired. And said, I haven't even shown him a book. He just immediately took out a Bhagavad Gita, right? It's a Bhagavad Gita, and put it in his hand, And we were landing, right? Because we were just landing in Atlanta. And he took the book. I don't have any money. Anyway, then, after how many different apps he went through, finally found an app that he could pay. He gave $10. So this is, have a friend who you trust, you can open your heart to like that. And the second thing, Srila Prabhupada oh, I do the same thing all the time. And it works. If you have some question, or you have some problem, open the book. You don't know what to do, take a book. Pray. You have to be sincere. You have to pray to Srila Prabhupada. Please help me, Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda. Prabhupada will answer the question. It's absolutely amazing. And if we give, and you do this all the time, and I'm starting to do it too now. When you're distributing a book, you know, they say no or whatever. Just open the book and let them pick a verse. Let them just, or you read any verse. And again, right? Again and again, that verse, does something to their heart. And they end up taking it. Or even if they don't take it, they want the book and they can't give money, we'll make some, just like when we arrived in Atlanta, we had an Uber or Lyft driver, and so Bhakti Devan gave him a book, just as we were getting out, right? And he said, a little book, we don't have it anymore. I said, well, do you have like a lighter? Something you can give? You don't have any, he said, I don't have any cash, no change even. So then he pulled out, he said, well, I do have this. It was a little memento. He said, I have two of them. It was a verse from the Bible. And it said, I can't remember exactly now, but just put your trust in God and you will never be without a shirt or something like that. And there was a dollar bill folded up in the form of a shirt. Whoa. And it was, so if we just give them the book, put the book in their hand, that book has Srila Prabhupada's full power in it, and it will work miracles.
So I like Vaishesika Prabhu's rules. Number one rule is always have books. If you have a book, you'll be surprised at who you meet. And this has happened to me so many times where I'll go to get in my car, and I don't know if it's Krishna or intuition or what. Get a book. So I always carry them in my car, always have one in my pocket. And it's amazing the people you meet. Because if you bring the book, Krishna will send the person that will take the book. And in that regard, we were distributing in Mexico City, and they have a rule there that everyone in the temple has to distribute. They have a button, actually, it says a book a day. So everybody makes a point of distributing one book a day at least. Because many grihastas, are old people, we get hung up with whatever in just life, But if you always remember to take a book, so I try to go everywhere I go, gas station attendant, this person, that person, no matter who they are, you give them a book. This book will change your life. This is great philosophy. You like to read, and you give them the book, and in that way, you're spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada said his was a missionary movement. So that's we go forward with that, trying to please Srila Prabhupada by doing the one thing. Of course, everything pleased Prabhupada, but the number one thing was distributing his books. He put so much effort into translating these books and making them so perfect. So we have that obligation to Srila Prabhupada and to our spiritual master, whoever they are, to distribute books. Haribo.
So there's 2 points. One is on the opposite side of not having a book. At one point in Atlanta, we had stopped distributing books because management wanted to make a lot of money. So we had our Ferrari van, we recorded all kinds of music, we were selling cassettes at the Atlanta airport, thousands of dollars every day. So we didn't have any books. Practically, we were not allowed to take books by the administration. Take these cassettes, sell them, and make money. So one day, this lady who was selling flowers, she knew me. She said, Benny, there's Michael Jackson. Oh. He comes, just like in the 80s, after Thriller. He comes up the walkway, only one security person. I didn't have any books. All I had was the Murari band cassettes. So I go to Michael, I say, hey Michael, Hare Krishna. You know what he said? Thank you, brother. And I gave him the cassette, and I felt so bad that we had no books. So it's important, always, like we were saying, always have books, too. It's very, very important.
Could we always have a Bible?
The question exactly was, what is our advice to the next generation? Well, we have to keep Prabhupada's words, with us as much as closely as possible. I mean, we have them in the books, and we should not be strangers to them ourselves. I know Prabhupada's words are what motivate me. Every morning we sing Guru Mukha Padmavakya Chittate Korya. I only wish to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. And so sometimes devotees ask me, how is it you've been able to do Sankirtan for so long? And it was easy in the 70s, but at some point when other devotees stopped, I had to figure out, what's my motivation, what's going to come from. I stumbled across this many, many years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but this and similar statements is what helps me keep going. This is an excerpt from a lecture Prabhupada gave in Vrindavan, 1976. He says, "This is Krishna consciousness movement. You cannot sit idly to show your gorgeousness in a secluded place, imitating Haridas Thakur. No, you have to preach. That is the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Amara Agyaya Guru Hanatada Idesh. That is really following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Not to imitate Haridas Thakur. That is not possible. Even you do that very nicely. That is for your safety. Supposing that you are doing nicely, but that is for your safety. But one who is facing dangerous position for others' benefit, here it comes, they are very quickly recognized by Krishna." So when I heard that, I thought, well, that's what I'm interested in. I want to be recognized by Krishna. That's the goal, right? Some sit here, Haditosana, that you have to, at some point we want Krishna to give his stamp of approval. I heard Prabhupada said in a lecture, Lord Chaitanya goes, this man has done something, has done something for my movement, has done something for my service. So, to be quick, Prabhupada says, to be very quickly recognized by Krishna. That's the process. And he quotes the famous 2 verses from Bhagavad Gita. So he says, just like fighting soldiers, they are facing danger for the country. They are recognized. Similarly, those who are preachers on behalf of Krishna, preaching to people to take Krishna consciousness, they are great soldiers. And Prabhupada concludes by saying, so I'm very happy that you Europeans and Americans are helping me. So continue this process. And that is once again, he says, that is the very easy way to be recognized by Krishna. Those who are preaching this Krishna consciousness. So I thank you very much that you have come here in Vrindavan and you are traveling and preaching. So let us dedicate this life to preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world. Prabhupada concludes by saying, never mind we die by preaching, still it will be glorious. So, from a statement like that, you can understand how important Prabhupada felt it was. And it's kind of remembering something like that helps me kind of stay motivated to continue doing it.
I always remember this whole string of purports in the 4th canto, wherein this king Malayadwaja has just left his body, and his widow is lamenting, and Srila Prabhupada writes again and again and again, in many, many purports throughout that entire passage, that he makes a comparison between a chaste wife joining her husband through sati and a chaste disciple who, in the absence of the spiritual master, never forgets the orders that he's received and lives by following his orders. And Prabhupada says that a disciple's duty is to either fulfill the order of the spiritual master or die trying to fulfill that order of the spiritual master, but there's never any other option. And that's what it means to be a disciple, because Sanatana Goswami told us that a disciple is like a sold-out animal. He no longer owns himself. He doesn't have any rights over his life any longer. Can't make any personal decisions. He's the property of another person. So I was fortunate enough to be trained by Tamal Krishna Goswami, who had that attitude, and instilled that attitude in anyone that he preached to. That Guru Nishtha is very, very important to really understand what it means to be a disciple and to stick very strictly to that principle. That's something we always have to keep in our minds, and I think that that's why Srila Prabhupada told us to sing this particular song that Bhagavati Prabhu has already quoted every day in Guru Puja. That's not the traditional standard. That's something that Srila Prabhupada introduced. I don't know why he introduced it. I'm not going to speculate. But, you know, modern civilization, and particularly Western civilization, doesn't have a real clear concept of the importance of a spiritual master. And for that reason, we don't have a natural concept or an intuitive idea of what it means to be a disciple. But Srila Prabhupada really wanted to instill this idea in us, and that's why he has us sing this song. And if you give due reflection to that song by Narottam Das Thakur, and then, you know, every single line of that song is just full of deep, deep purports. And in fact, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote a Sanskrit commentary on a Bengali song, that Bengali song. So, you know, just to illustrate the importance of this principle, I think. So
that's the entrance to Prema Bhakti.
Yes.
Prema Bhakti Chandra.
First things first. So, Adau Shraddha, and that Shraddha is supposed to. Only place where you're going to find bhakti is in the left and right foot of the spiritual master, lotus feet. Not in Loi Bazaar, not in any other thing. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhagavati Prabhu mentioned about how at a certain point there wasn't so much external motivation, because in the 1970s and maybe half of the 80s, like never was there a class when book distribution wasn't encouraged, especially like Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Rameshwar Swami and Pragosh, and so all of the time it was encouraged, and it just waned, and now